All right, sorry about that, guys. We had, of course, I have to restart at the worst moment. I got like T minus 60 seconds, and I find out that my Camtasia, my drawing tool is not working. So I had to hurry up and restart. Unfortunately, this is a fairly quick computer. All right, so we're going to be diving into it. We should be all good at this point. I think we've got things working. Imran, thank you. Looks like we've got people here. So hopefully everybody is jumping back in here since I had to restart quickly. All right. Couple things just talk about real quick. I think a lot of you guys know this, but anybody else who's kind of new, getting in there, we do have the Moxie indicator now on stockcharts.com in addition to Thinkorswim. So this is a fantastic thing. It's great to be getting this out on other platforms as well. We've seen Thinkorswim go down occasionally, and I'm sure everybody else has issues sometimes. So it's good to have it on a backup. And for those of you who have already purchased the Moxie indicator on Thinkorswim through Simpler Trading, and you want to also get it on stockcharts.com, we do have a coupon code for you to, I think it's basically half price or $200 or something like that in the Simpler Trading store. So go reach out to the company and customer support, and we'll hook you up that way. Other than that, if you come over here, profitpilot.com, I know, so those of you who are maybe new to me, and if you're going to get this on stockcharts.com, you might want to know a little bit more about the tool and how to actually trade using it. Yes, I do have my weekly new channel show on stockcharts.com, but we do have some classes here that you guys might want to take and get interested in so you can actually figure out how to use the tool. All right, so from there, let's jump into the markets. And one thing that I wanted to talk about to anybody who's here, anybody in general, but also to my Moxie subscribers is it does seem like kind of the chatter that I'm getting out there and hearing on social media and just kind of the vibe of just there's people out there and things. There's a lot of FOMO, and I get it. And I'm looking at this and it's like, man, that was a really good move. And yes, there were some good moves out there. But I'm going to be making the case that, you know what? If you weren't already in this move, now is not the time to be getting into it. We don't want to be stepping on a rake and going long at basically the most inopportune moment. And I understand that the IWM also looks really, really ripe, but I make the case that I just don't know how the IWM is going to start really, really taking off when the S&P and the Nasdaq are super high, near all-time highs, has gone basically vertical for the last few days, and it just I don't know how much more this thing has to go before a pullback. So I don't want to be stepping on a rake that way. I'll show you a couple individual tickers that I think are also showing me this situation in this case. So let's dive in and kind of show you what I'm looking for. So as far as the S&P goes, let's see if I get my got my drawing tool working. So for this, I mean, look at this thing. We're not quite at the third ATR. Okay, that's fine. It's not going to be maybe the thing that works this time, but we are coming up here right near previous all-time highs. Do you really think that the S&P is going to make new all-time highs from this kind of point in this motion? I don't think so. That does not seem reasonable. I'm willing to say that it will go to the all-time highs, but I don't think anybody in the right mind is going to be willing to buy after such a vertical run like this beyond the previous high. I'm just not so sure about that. So I'm going to be inclined to say I don't want to be buying the market up here, and I rather have some sort of pullback because I'm also seeing that there is a giant gap between price and the hourly 50 SMA, and then also that price has been running the third ATR for 4 or 5 days at this point. Like, it's been pretty crazy. It's a great move, but man, I don't want to be buying up in this area. That just seems like the worst kind of idea. It has done a good job following the 15-minute 50. Great. But, I'm over here on the daily chart also seeing that there's a giant gap between price and the daily 8 EMA. So a lot of things are telling me that this is overbought. And you know what? If you didn't get in, just got to wait until the next opportunity. So we look at that, and then we look at the NASDAQ, and it's basically the same thing. Coming up here, not quite to new all-time highs, but it is coming into some previous price congestion. And this thing has also just been screaming as well. I mean, it has been running the third ATR for a few days. There is a giant gap between price and the hourly 50. And you know what? Technically, the 50 has not crossed over the 200 yet. And even in this point, I don't think it's going to just keep going up while that happens. So I do think that there's probably going to be a pullback at some point. Maybe at that point we'll get the 50 to cross over the 200. We are starting to see some things that look pretty good, but my goodness, I don't want to be buying up here. And maybe even today we're starting to see just a little bit of not weakness per se, but lack of buying in here. The other thing to note, and I was making a note of this in one of my newsletters coming up, is notice that the volume has been just dropping off. I know today is not a full day yet, but the volume has been dropping off. And if we look at the S&P, we can see the same thing. Note the volume that has been dropping off precipitously. So it'll be interesting to see where today ends because yesterday did not have a lot of volume. So I think fewer and fewer people are starting to buy up there, and that's kind of my take. And then if we look at the IWM, yeah, this thing's looking pretty good. It's looking raring to go, and things are good. But gosh, I just don't see how, and if it hasn't already kind of taken off like this, when the S&P and the Nasdaq have already started taking off, I just don't see how the IWM is going to start moving up if the Nasdaq and the S&P need to kind of take a break. So that's kind of my thought. That's my contention on this. But the IWM has been flagging for 6 months at this point, and I've always basically maintained a bullish position or stance on IWM. And if we look here on the weekly 8 is still over the 21. Technically, it's still bullish because that fast moving average is over the slow moving average. I know, kind of mind boggling, huh? All right, so one of the things we kind of look at, say, Neo, this is where I look at this and I say, I think this is the first move versus second move. And for those of you who are in the Moxie room and chat room and all that, you understand what I'm talking about here. To where on the daily chart, actually, really, let me show the weekly because I think this is where it's going to be showing up. And then I'll show you Riot too. I'm viewing this, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, right? And the 8 is still below the 21 on the weekly time frame. And this first move up, as I said, the first move is up into resistance, and this is the beginning of kind of a bottoming pattern. And then what we should see is eventually price kind of come back down, retest the low area, something like that. And then from there, we can start to move up. So that's the first move. That's the second move. This is kind of what I'm looking at. And I think Neo is a little bit of an indication of that. If we look at Riot, and I know Riot's having a pretty good day too, but look, Riot is kind of doing the same thing as Neo. You can see on the weekly time frame that we've got, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot. This is the first time that price is coming off the lows. Not often does price really just go up or keep going up in this kind of situation. They almost always have to pull back and retest the lows. In fact, you can kind of see that on Riot back here. You can see price was going down like this, and then we got that first move off the low, and then look what it did, pulled back, and then we got to move up. So something like that is what I'm envisioning. Another one that I'm seeing, say, TAN, which is the ETF for the solars. And this one's done some good work. So you can see like right here, see how price came down, and then there's the leg, there's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, and then what did price do? Came back down. Now, this one chopped around for a little bit. That's why we don't know. We don't know what the future is. But what I can tell you is I think that Riot, Neo, and a lot of other stocks are about here on their weekly patterns, and they are likely to need a pullback. Now, if we go look at TAN over here on, say, the daily chart and the hourly, I look at this and I'm like, cool, there's a good move. Great, nice. But I look at this and say, you know what? This wasn't exactly a bounce off of the hourly 50. And I see that price is up, but I don't want to be buying this either because why? I mean, look at this. Kind of got sold into. It was up at the third ATR on the hourly chart. And this looks like a pretty good move that I just don't think is necessarily sustainable right from this point. The other thing I look at is how about this daily chart? You see that daily is up here at the third ATR, kind of extended, or at least it's on the upper range of its upper end of its range. And then the other thing I look at is again for those of you who are in the Moxie area, the 50, 250. I mean, look, yeah, we've crossed the 50, but now we're running into the 200. So, maybe what's likely to come? Maybe we get a price pulling back down something around the daily 50, trying to find some support in through there. Because, first move, let's get over resistance. But second move, let's go test support. And that's really what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for the S&P. That's what I'm looking at for the NASDAQ, is we've had a good move. But now I want to see price come back down to test support. And that is kind of my MO when it comes to trading. In fact, you can see this same situation on tan right here looked very much like it was back there. I mean, tell me that's not identical, right? So we should be seeing price move up, just like price move up. And then you can see price running into resistance, just like price was running into resistance. And then what? We see price come back down to the moving average. And I'd like to see price come down to that moving average. So that is kind of where I'm going with this. And I'm just seeing it on a lot of names out there that we've had some pretty good first moves, and I think it's likely that we need to get something to come back down. Another way to look at it, I'm looking at Away. Away is a travel technology ETF. So, kind of an interesting way to look at that market. And what do we got? Notice that price is running into the daily 200, and there's a gap between price and the daily 50. So I'm looking for price to come back down to test that daily 50 or something like that. You can see it sure took a long time to do it. And if you guys want to know how to be reading the Moxie indicator, check this out. We've gotten price that kept trying to move up or kind of in that range. And look at the Moxie indicator down, 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 down. So that's why I kept looking at this thing. I'm like, I'm astonished that this thing is not rolling over because I'm looking at it trying to run into some resistance like this. But I think it's finally starting to happen. The fact that this didn't go up with the market, and as it's running into that resistance, I think that when the market does finally run out of some steam and need to pull back, something like this should be coming back down to that daily 50. It might go further, but I am saying at least it needs to go there. And if we look at Jets, you could see exactly that same situation. I mean, look at this thing. This one did it much more cleanly, and you can see right up into that 200 and right back down to that daily 50. Perfect situation right there. And I think Tan is going to be doing the same thing. CCL, the cruise lines, they basically did the same thing up and then back down. And then even Lyft. If we look at Lyft, bingo. I mean, look at that thing right there. Up, ran into resistance, back down. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And that's why I'm a first move versus second kind of move. Yeah, I know, Imran. All that FOMO. Another way to be looking at it was D now. This one, Austin, I think you pointed this out to me. I'm looking at something like this, where you know I don't really want to be buying it kind of up in this area. Yes, there were still some moves. Yes, it kept pushing, but kind of just like what I showed you on those other tickers where they ran into that 200 overhead. I'd like to see the second move. I'd like to see what price is going to do about coming back down, finding some support, and then maybe moving up. But that's what I'm just saying. This first kind of move, this FOMO right here, that's okay. I think that's the first move. I mean, if you look at this, and what I'm trying to get across is that this is the first time that price has crossed over a downtrending daily 50. Like, if this thing is really going to start moving up and there's going to be a move, there's going to be a pullback. There is going to be an opportunity to get in because the 50 is only just now starting to turn back up. Like that's the beginning of a move if there's going to be a move to the upside. So that's why I was looking at this. Oh, okay, Austin, not your ticker. All right. I just know that a couple of you guys are real. You guys really kind of provide for the subscription and the Moxie Room. You guys always give a lot of good chat and talk out there about these things with tickers. Yeah, so let's see, Austin, you talk about big tech names down 0.5%, while small cap is up. Yes, I do see that. I will also say that my playing field has always kind of been small caps because they move more, and they have just been getting beat up for 6 months. And I think that that correlates with the IWM, and we're starting to see stuff kind of perk up again, right? Like, look, we're starting to see Tilray starting to move up. Now I'm not willing to play these yet. I'm gonna have to be convinced to get in these a little bit. But you know what? Tilray's up. We're starting to see some cannabis. What Cron kind of perking up a little bit. There might be something here. There might be a reason why the IWM looks like it's kind of starting to warm up a little bit. Bloom Energy, we're starting to see that kind of pop up again. F Cell had a great couple of days poking up like that. Even F Tech had a good day. Now that thing, yeah, there was a Moxie setup, but man, you go from 200,000 shares traded per day, 100,000 shares traded per day to suddenly a million. Like, good luck trying to catch something like that. Yes, there was a setup, but there wasn't anything that I would be willing to trust. but you can see that there is a moxie price trigger right there, and price did hold the hourly 50 right there. And then you can even see that there was a moxie price trigger back there on the daily chart too. So yes, everything was there, but man, I'm just not going to be jumping into a stock that is 100 or 200,000 shares traded per day and then suddenly blows up. Maybe we'll catch this later when it calms down a little bit. But I do see things like that. Let's see. Talk about these big cap tech. Amazon. Again, if these are going to move, then they'll take some time. They're gonna have to come back down to their hourly 50s at some point. So I'm looking at that. I see that there's a giant gap between price and the daily 8 EMA. No big deal. Let's just wait for stuff like this. It's nice to see that there is a lot of energy. It's nice to see this. And you know what? You weren't able to jump in right then. That's fine. If this is going to continue, it's going to continue. Just buy a pullback. Just wait until something like that happens. Apple, kind of see what's going on. Yeah, same deal. I spoke about this in our options room yesterday to the group. I was just saying, hey, this thing's kind of getting up there. Do we want to be buying at the third ATR? No. Do we want to be buying when price is this far away from the hourly 50? Probably not. And what's the other situation? Notice that the 50 is still below the 200. So that's going to take some time. In fact, one way to look at this, I was kind of looking at BTBT. This is one of those ETF, or not ETFs, it's a company, Bitcoin miner type thing. And one thing that I was kind of noticing about this relating to that, say, Apple trade, is notice here. You see how price got up here and it was third ATR, and you can see how there was a giant gap between price and the hourly 50. And you're maybe thinking, oh man, this thing's going to go crazy. Like, let's go in. No, that's exactly, if you were going to buy Apple right now, that's exactly what you'd be doing is you'd be buying Apple up there. And then what happened? Notice that right here, this junction, notice that price came back down below the hourly 50, which is a trampoline move. And notice that the 50 crossed over the 200. And then notice that not only did it pull back pretty steeply, but it then traded sideways for a while until it finally started moving up again. So this is why I look at something like this and I say, totally different names, totally different sectors. But if you look at the chart pattern, it's really kind of doing that's exactly what I try and talk about and what I try and teach. Of we don't want to buy here, we want to buy here, and then just be prepared. It might even take some more time as it tries to get past some of these moving averages and turn things. So that's a BTBT. It's one of the Bitcoin miners. Ethereum is having a great day. So this was literally a perfect setup. This is textbook Moxie trading, Moxie setup. I was looking for Mara and MSTR and Bitcoin itself to do this kind of setup. It didn't. So I missed those trades, but Ethereum did do exactly what I wanted to. And so this is these are the things I teach. This is the principles. This is the stuff that if you guys are new to Moxie, you go get one of those classes that we have at profitpilot.com, and then you can see that I try and teach this stuff. But when price was here and you see there was a giant gap between price and the hourly 50, just like Apple, just like BTBT, just like the S&P and NASDAQ right now. That's what I'm talking about. This gap between price and the hourly 50 is not comfortable. I would like to wait for a pullback. And so waiting. And oh, look, what do we got? We got a pullback, just like BTBT, right? And what was it? It was also a trampoline move. We got price below the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is above zero. So it's telling me, hey, you better be watching for this thing because it's a high buoyancy, high pressure type setup. I wanted to wait for it to confirm. And then the next day, it confirmed right there. The other thing to note about this pullback is, look, it also pulled back right into the daily 50. Moxie indicators up. Everything looked good. I mean, everything looked good on this thing. We then, as we got in, just waiting for price to kind of hang out, figure out its thing. Look what it did. Came back down and tapped the hourly 50 once, maybe twice, depends on kind of that wick over there. But what it do? It now tested that moving average for support. That is exactly what you want to be seeing. Looks great. And then what do we have? To boot, we got the squeeze. And then today, jump up like this. Now, I'm not always one to just jump into a move and catch it and whatever, but I've been waiting for this thing. We're in it. There was a great setup. Everything was looking good. We know that the cryptos are looking great, all that kind of stuff. So I just said, you know what, this is probably going to be a viable gap up. And so I waited about 3 minutes after the open just to see what would happen, and just sent down an alert and said, let's go buy. And that was a good choice because a couple minutes later, this thing just started taking off. So we've got a pretty good position in this. You can see there was great volume. I'm sure that a lot of that was us. And then you can see that there was a nice block of volume in through here as price was hanging out, going sideways. So great situations and moves for us in the Moxie room. All right, so let's see. We only got a couple minutes left if you guys want to be looking at any particular tickers, but that is kind of where I've been going for. Let's see, PDD. I want to see if there are any kind of tickers that I'm looking at. Some of the Chinese names are working out. They are doing fairly well. It's great. Now, some of them, I think there are some that are better than others. JD is looking pretty good. Baidu, I think, is looking better than Baba. But you got to keep in mind that some of these names have been beat up for a while, and just understand what you're playing with in that area. PDD. What do we got? Moxie price trigger right there, and we got the 8 crossing over the 21. We have price holding the daily 50, and then we've got the 50 250 maneuver with a trampoline. I mean, this is everything that is in the Moxie rulebook. So my only question is, I don't know how much these are going to be affected by the American market if the S&P and the Nasdaq need to pull back. But I will say this is looking pretty enticing right in through here. Yeah, Imran, I know. I heard Jack Ma appeared. I didn't hear that he appeared in Europe. I just heard that somebody spotted him. And yeah, Baba had a huge rip because of that. Because I think a bunch of rumors going around that Jack Ma was maybe not with us anymore. So, kind of some crazy thoughts about that. Wondering, did he get himself in some hot water based on any comments that he's made? But yeah, I guess he's been spotted. Hopefully, he's not brainwashed or something like that. But yeah, if he's alive and well, then Baba. Yeah, look at that. That's all based on Jack Ma being cited. That's that's news right there. So yeah, interesting things going on around there, but just be careful. EDU was mentioned to me the other day. This was kind of the challenge of being in Chinese stocks. The China government said no more to EDU and I guess online education, and boom, people are just like, get me out. So that thing was looking pretty rough. And you know what? I know the Chinese stocks are kind of coming back up again, but I I don't know if I want to be playing something like this. So yep, Imran, that's exactly right. A lot of people were wondering what happened to Jack Ma. So there are some other Chinese stocks out there if you guys are interested. And let me actually no wait, let's see what ticker was Lucid, LCID. Here's another example, I think, of first move versus second move of what I'm waiting for with the stock market, waiting for a little bit of pullback. See here how price is crossed over the hourly 50. I think that there's gap right here between price and the hourly 50 is a little concerning to me. I want to see price come back down to test it or do a trampoline move. And you can see that this is looking a lot like that. I want to see price kind of come back down into that moving average and then find some support. Another way to look at that is if we look at Overstock or a Tell. Let's see. Yeah, it was Tell. You can see kind of the same deal, like right here, how price crossed over that moving average and then came back down into that moving average. That's the kind of pullback that I'm looking for. And so it's I'm gonna be hanging off just a little bit, waiting for this market to kind of pull back a little bit, and we'll see what's up. And yeah, just when is that gonna happen? I don't know. This thing is super sky high, but man, I do not want to be buying up here. That's all I can tell you. And so what that means is we just gotta wait. And I know a lot of people, we keep going back to last year, October. And I gotta say, it is looking awfully similar. We're looking through here, we go back here like this. You tell me, this is looking really, really similar right here to where we are currently. We've got this gap between price and the daily 8. We've got price up here at the third ATR. We've got price really far away from the hourly 50. So I don't know if the market's going to pull back this hard. We just don't know. But I don't want to be buying into this kind of situation right here. So let's just hold our horses a little bit. If you guys have been in during this run, if you've been making some money, got some trades, great. We've made some trades too. But other than that, I'm looking for things to come back down and test some support. So let's kind of hang out there a little bit and see what we can do. Once again, if you guys have any questions, if you like kind of how I talk about stuff, you can go over here to profitpilot.com And then if you also want to get the indicator on stockcharts.com, in addition to or separate from Thinkorswim, you can do that over here. And we will be posting some links in the comments.